So the sense of a me, people call it ego. For a part, you could call it functional, huh?
Yeah.
Because I take my place in the world, and I watch when I cross the street that this form doesn't get hurt. But what's a wrong sense of me?
Well, when it's exclusive, when it has to do with me against other, or me and not other. So when we speak of this sense of me, ego, when it's benign or when it's non-aggressive, it's simply an experience, a phenomenon of life. But as we all know, within our own selves and in our world, it can be aggressive, and then it's about survival at the risk of anyone else, and that is why ego is here. It seems to me, if we're speaking of whys, it's a survival of the form, and it's Eli, my husband, speaks of it as like a program upgrade in evolution, so that when we say, oh, this is me, and we identify ourselves as this one, then we will fight for this one to survive. Whether it's just this one, or it's the tribe, or the nation, we will fight and kill. And we see that, of course, in the world, the aggressive nature of ego. And there's also a benign nature, which is simply the delightful experience of me and other.
But should you get rid of ego, or is it just use it you can use it in the wrong way, or?
Well, who's going to get rid of ego? I mean, the idea to get rid of ego is still ego.
Mm-hmm.
Does life need to get rid of ego?
No.
Does silence need to get rid of ego? Does love need to get rid of ego? It's only this capacity of ego to fragment itself into me and other, and into ego and superego, or lower ego and higher ego, and the higher ego will get rid of the lower ego, but that's all a play of mind, because finally ego is simply the I thought. It's the thought of me based on sensory perception.
So there's no such thing like you sometimes read or hear, the ego does this, the ego does that. You say it's just a thought, and a thought can't do anything.
If the thought is, the action occurs, and then the thought actually follows the action. Although in our perception, it's as if we are doing it.
Yeah.
And of course we are functioning, as you said, and so in that sense the ego is one with functioning. So and there's no problem there with functioning. It's only really in malfunction, and it has become a problem globally now because there's a malfunction in the human identity. It's conquered the world, and it's now at the risk of dying because it's conquered the world. So maybe it's that very malfunction that's even allowing us to have this kind of conversation, or to examine what does it mean to be ego, and what is the benign ego, and what's the aggressive ego, and who am I really?
Yeah, you could say like 50, 60 years ago, after Second World War, there was a love and peace movement to bring that in balance again, or something.
Yes.
So maybe we're facing that right now also.
Yes. Well, it seems that whenever things are shocked, when the system is shocked, certainly World War II or any of the wars, or anything that may happen to us personally, there's a reevaluation of what's important, what are we here for, what do we serve.
Well, what most people are looking for is happiness, is good fortune, winning the lottery, whatever. We think it brings us joy, it brings us everlasting happiness. Is that possible, everlasting happiness?
The deep, everlasting fulfillment of self-recognition is possible for everyone. Happiness, as you're describing and as we experience, comes and goes. We may wake up in the morning and feel ill, and that brings feelings of unhappiness. That comes and goes. We may wake up feeling wonderful, and that's happiness. So when my teacher said to me, what comes and goes, going back to what the right question is, and what remains. That was so profound for me, because I had to recognize that everything that I was hoping would not come, comes. And everything I was hoping would not go, goes. And it cut some hope that those things which by their nature come and go, some hope that that would change, that I would reverse the laws of the universe. And once that hope was cut, there was a tension that was free to discover what is always here. And what is always here is the source of this me and the source of this non-me. It is profoundly fulfilling to recognize that is the truth of who I am, whatever my experience of pleasure, of pain, of happiness, unhappiness. And so those experiences just become weather patterns.
Clouds in the sky.
Yeah, and they do have an effect, but they have no meaning, no deep meaning.
So could you say that hope is like, I don't know the right English word, sinking sand, when you step on and you get sucked into the mud?
Yes, yeah. I can't think of the word either. Anyway, we know
what we mean. Yeah.
Well, hope is very necessary for children. It's a necessary attitude for children. And then comes a certain point where we recognize that we can be trapped by our hopes, that it keeps us looking in the future. It keeps us avoiding what is here in the present, responding to what is here, whether we hope it is here or we hope it's not here. It's here. That can be an emotion, or it can be an event. It can be a realization, it can be a loss of realization. Just to give up hope that it would be different is to really take responsibility for meeting it.
So not hoping for better times. These times are good enough already.
Well, I wouldn't even say good enough. These times are these times. And that's the beginning. What are these times? And what in these times will come and go? And what has always been here in your experience and in your listener's experience? From that first moment of recognizing I am. I can remember I was a small child, and it was like a shock of coming into consciousness, and just the wonder of that. And then I got very busy trying to manage that and explain that, and of course that's what our education systems do, that's what our religions do, that's what our spiritual movements do. They try to give us some way of metaphysically understanding this hugeness of I am. I mean, I am is always here in our experience. And we know it's, in our adult experience, we know that this flavor of I am will not be here. But the consciousness that recognizes itself as being, that's life.
So that's the thing all people who visit your satsangs are looking for, but do you say to them, well, you never lost it, you still are here, or?
Yeah, I might say that, I actually try to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
Really what I see mostly in the meetings is people are obsessed with their own problems, their own obstructions to happiness. And so they want happiness, but the attention is on the problem. And I recently spoke to some people and said, satsang is not psychotherapy. We aren't here to work on your problems. But we live in a psychotherapeutic subculture, so we're very influenced by the methods of psychotherapy. And we use the words of psychotherapy, ego, and I use the word subconscious. They're valuable words, and it's a valuable discipline. But that's not what satsang is. Satsang is what is here regardless of your problems. And are your problems more important than what is always here? For many people, the problem is the importance, and they just want it gone or fixed. But for people who are willing to hear that, or investigate that there is this conscious life that is free and fulfilled regardless of the problems. That's very good news.
Yeah. One thing about problems, I once heard a Dutch teacher, he doesn't live anymore, Alexander Smith, he said the solution is the problem. The looking for a solution
is the problem.
Is the
That's
problem.
Right. That's right. Because it's all about fixing something rather than recognizing.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Is it like the favorite toy of the mind-made self, creating problems and then fixing it? Or is it too short?
Well, we know that it's very useful to see what the problem is and then fix it in terms of, if I'm not getting food, what's the problem?
Yeah.
If I'm not getting a relationship, what's the problem? And to fix it. But then we expect fixing the problem to give us fulfillment, to give us recognition. And it can't. That's just an activity of mind.
Yeah.
Realization is bigger than that.
Could you call it addiction?
Yes, I call it an addiction. We are addicted to the power of thinking, because it is a power. And sometimes it's a wonderful power, a creative power, and sometimes it's horrible, but just the power itself is addictive. And so we assume, because it is our drug, that it will solve our problems, and it is the problem.
So you say see problems as clouds just hiding in front of the sun. The sun is still there, the warmth of the sun, or...
Yes, and sometimes it's appropriate to fix the problems, and sometimes, or at least once, it is self-revealing to simply stop doing anything with anything and recognize what is always here.
So stop doing.
Yeah, for a moment at least. I'm not, it doesn't bother me that people say I do. It's fine. Have the experience of doing. It's a wonderful experience. We like to work, our minds like to work, but first, just take a moment and recognize what can't be done, because it's already here.
You don't have to do anything
it's
for
here.
it. Yeah. I once met a guy from Africa, south of Africa. He had a relationship with a Dutch girl. And I recognized immediately in him that he sits passively, just enjoying the moment, enjoying the atmosphere, and then he gets up and makes a cup of tea, and you want some tea, you want some fruit, and then he gets back into this chill modus. And I saw this and I thought, wow, it almost seems like people in Holland, or maybe in all of Europe, live the other way around. That you are still always doing something, and then sometimes chill modus.
That's right.
For example, he just put the way around. He's always in chill modus, and he gets into activity.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, in our modern world, we've lost that. It's out of balance. And that's where the addiction to thinking and doing has thrown the whole balance of this remarkable experience of being, and therefore being able to think and do. We think and do, and being is lost somewhere.
Being is reserved for vacations and weekends on Saturday evenings. Yeah. Okay, in the next and final episode, I wanted to talk to you about some tweets you put on Twitter.
Okay.
Let's have a cup of water.